So welcome. I'm just gonna go ahead and get this heating up. I'm just adding some olive oil. This is an Instant Pot. I cooked with it last time in class, but I'm cooking with it again today. I'm gonna put it on saute mode. Here we go. So the reason I'm using the Instant Pot today is because I'm making a crock pot recipe, but I want it to be done in time for us to eat it. So I'm making it in the Instant Pot. So you could make this in the Instant Pot or the crock pot. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Today we're talking about the focus of our class is Bulgur. Do you guys know what that is? Never heard of it? Bulgur. Yeah, so a lot of people haven't heard of it. So it's actually an ancient grain, okay? It is a family of the wheat family, or a part of the wheat family, excuse me. It is a really good source of iron, fiber, protein, and B vitamins. To me, it's very underutilized in our cooking today. A lot of people don't know what it is, but it's really cheap, okay? And it's really versatile. It barely takes any time at all to cook. And you can find it at most grocery stores. So I've seen it at Safeway, Yolks, Natural Grocers. Not sure about Winco, not sure, but it would be in the same aisle that you would find like rice or quinoa or bulk foods. It would be there as well. This is actually what it looks like dry. That's what it looks like. Okay, kind of has that look of maybe rice, maybe barley, but a little smaller. And it's actually an intact grain. What that means is that it has the bran, the germ, and the endosperm. A refined grain would have the bran and the germ stripped away, and all would remain would be the endosperm. But a whole grain has all three of those things still intact, okay? So what I'm gonna make today, I'm just gonna start adding my veggies to saute. So we've got some celery. What I'm gonna be making is a minestrone soup. Have you guys had minestrone soup before? Yeah? Okay, so minestrone soup is a really great vegetarian option. You guys know me, I'm all about the plants. And if we can strive to eat a little bit less meat and dairy and a little bit more plant matter, that'll be better for our health and for the environment. So instead of using pasta in today's minestrone, we're using bulgur instead. Pasta is what we would say is a refined grain, usually, unless you bought whole wheat pasta. But we're gonna use this as kind of a little bit of a healthy alternative and to give a little bit of more fiber and protein in there as well. So saute mode, I got my olive oil going, I've got carrots and celery, and I'm going to add onion. Does anyone know what that mixture is called, celery, carrot, onion?
Mirepoix.
Hey, you guys are so smart. Yes, it's called mirepoix. Yeah, so that's a classical French term. And if you don't know where to start, celery, carrot, onion is your answer, okay? That's your flavor base for many soups you'll find. Sometimes you'll find in like Tex-Mex cooking, they'll sub out the carrot for red bell pepper and it'll be bell pepper, celery, onion, or something like that. But basically that combo of flavors stays the same. Now, if you've been to my class before, you've probably seen me chop an onion. I'm just gonna use half an onion for this recipe. I've basically cut it root end to root end, sliced it in half from root end to root end, and then took off the peel. What I'm gonna do is just make one horizontal slice this way, okay, almost to the root end, but not quite. And then on these lines that you see on the onion, I'm gonna cut there, okay? So keeping one root end on helps keep it all together, okay? So we're gonna keep one root end kind of on, cut almost all the way to that root end, but not quite. So our onion is still mostly intact because it's holding together, okay? So it's still all together, that's important. And then now we're just gonna go through this way and give it a little chop. And then that way you have mostly even-sized pieces. And it's pretty time effective too. You're not spent chasing down little runaway pieces of onion. And then you get down to the root and you can just throw the other root end away. Okay, so a pretty handy way to chop your onion in a time-efficient manner. And having relatively same-sized pieces helps us it cook more evenly together, right? At the same time. I've also got a bunch of garlic. That's gonna add a lot of good flavor. Okay, so I always start with whole fresh garlic. Okay, I peeled a clove here. My best way to chop it is usually to give it a really good smash with the flat side of your knife. Okay, so it's smashed like that, and then you're just gonna go through and just give it a real quick chop, okay? And you could use a garlic press, but I don't really even think a garlic press is necessary per se. Okay, so we're gonna put about 4 cloves worth of garlic in there. That's gonna give a lot of good flavor. I'm gonna save a little bit of garlic for our other recipe. Okay. Now, if you do have an Instant Pot, basically an Instant Pot is a fancy term for pressure cooker, right? Okay, so we're gonna get all of our ingredients in here, and then we're going to set it to pressure cook, and that's gonna help concentrate all of the flavors and give us that cooked for 5-hour feeling when it's only been 20 minutes. Setting it on saute while you're adding everything helps it come to temp quicker if you are using an Instant Pot. Like I said, if you are doing this recipe in a crock pot, you would do it much the same way by adding all of these ingredients, but you wouldn't be sauteing it, you would just be adding the ingredients in. Okay, now we're going to add a little bit of seasoning. So I use a little bit of kosher salt here. So a sprinkle of salt, and then to give it kind of a nice smoky, earthy flavor, my very favorite spice to use is smoked paprika. Okay, now paprika isn't too spicy per se, but it does give that nice smoky flavor. So I'm gonna use about a teaspoon of this. So I always recommend to add your spices before you add the liquid. Okay, when you saute the spices in there and they hit that source of fat from the olive oil, helps bring out more of the natural flavor in the spice. If you just add it to liquid, you don't get that blooming. It's called blooming the spices is what the technical term is adding those spices to your mixture before adding the liquid. So we've got our veggies in here. I know you guys can't see this, but they're getting a little bit softened up. They don't have to get all the way cooked. That's what the pressure cook is for. The other ingredients we're adding, I'm going to add a can of cannellini beans. I have drained and rinsed these and added them back to the can. But basically, I don't know if you guys can see that. They're like big white beans. So white beans look like black beans, but white, right? These look like kidney beans, but white. So they're a little bit bigger in texture. They're a really good source of dietary fiber, 10 grams of fiber. That's a lot of fiber just for a half a cup. And fiber is really important because a lot of different reasons, but it helps pass through our body undigested. It helps bind to cholesterol molecules, get rid of them through our body, so it can help reduce your overall cholesterol. One of the many things it does. Fiber is very cardioprotective as well, protects your heart. Okay, and it's good for diabetes because it affects your blood sugar less than, for example, a white carbohydrate. So one of my secret magic tools to make things taste amazing, you guys, is pesto. I love pesto. This is basically a concentration of basil, garlic, olive oil, usually some type of nut like pine nuts or walnuts. And because so much basil is used to make this tiny amount, the flavor is really concentrated. So I'm adding about 4 tablespoons or about 1/4 of a cup. And this is gonna even enhance the flavor base even more of our minestrone. Another key ingredient in minestrone is tomatoes. And so instead of using fresh or canned tomatoes, I'm actually using marinara sauce. And again, this is a really neat trick for concentrating the flavor, right? Oh gosh, if I can get it open. Should have opened it beforehand. You know, that was a trick. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna add probably this whole entire thing of marinara sauce. Okay. And so that adds that nice depth of tomatoey flavor. And since the marinara sauce usually has added garlic or spices or herbs and so forth, you get even more flavor, okay? When cooking from scratch, it's all about the flavor, right? So eating a lot of processed foods, they add all sorts of chemical-y things to make it have flavor. But when we cook from scratch, we're in charge of making our own flavor. What I just did there, if you didn't catch it, I poured the vegetable broth in the jar to rinse it out. So I'm also adding some vegetable broth. You could use water if you didn't have vegetable broth, no problem. And another key ingredient to most soups, bay leaves. Notice how we use bay leaves? So it's just a dried herb. I'll show you what it looks like. It's a bay leaf. I'm just gonna add a couple in there. Gives a really nice earthy flavor. So add 3 of those in there. And we're actually not going to add the bulgur yet. We are going to add that after we pressure cook this baby. I'm giving it a nice stir to incorporate, you know, the beans and the pesto and the marinara. And then we're going to bring it up to temp. We're gonna pressure cook it. It's only gonna take about 15 minutes. There we go. Okay, so pressure cook. So I'm gonna put it on soup mode. I'm going to just put it on for like 16 minutes. You just set the time and then it'll come to temp per se. You wanna make sure that it's on sealing and not venting, or else it'll start blowing steam all over the place. It'll probably still blow some steam, but that's just because there's a lot of pressure building in that little thing. Okay?
The reason you do is so it's all sealed in there, so all of those flavors can escape through the
Exactly. Yep. So you seal it off, and then at the end, we're gonna release some of the steam and some of the pressure that's inside there. Okay, so we've got soup, and our next recipe is gonna be a salad. We're doing a soup and salad. They're both featuring my awesome grain, bulgur, okay? So I'm moving over here to our salad recipe. I have already actually cooked some of this bulgur. This is what it looks like, okay? This, I showed you what the dry grain looks like. This is what it looks like cooked. Basically, all I did, this is just 1 cup dry. It actually makes quite a bit. You put 1 cup dry with 2 cups of water and simmer for about, I mean, it only takes maybe 8 minutes, 10 minutes. It's really quick. Less time than rice, less time than quinoa. So I'm gonna add that in.
So the same grain and water ratio as rice.
Pretty much, yeah. A lot of grains have that kind of same 2-to-1 ratio. Okay, and it makes about double or triple the dry amount that you put in there. I would say this is at least 3 cups. Okay, so when building a salad, I always like to have a crunchy, a creamy, a chewy, and kind of a peppery or a bitter flavor, right? You want to have that balance there. So for our bitter or our peppery flavor, we're going to be using arugula. Arugula is a great green to use in salads. That dark color is wonderful, because the darker the green, the better. I'm gonna use almost that whole package. Okay, so arugula, really good source. I'll tell you, it's 40% of your daily intake for vitamin A, 20% for vitamin C, 15% for calcium, and 6% for iron. So it's very nutritious, okay? For more of a protein kick, we're going to add a can of drained, rinsed garbanzo beans. Yeah.
The question, how does that compare to spinach in the sense of using arugula instead of spinach? I mean, is this better than spinach would be in the sense of the health benefits?
The health benefits are going to be relatively the same. The major difference will be the taste. So arugula is a little bit more of that peppery, bitter flavor. Spinach is more mild, but health-wise, both really, really good. So spinach would be an easy substitute for sure. So our protein components, kind of those garbanzo beans that also adds a lot of fiber. Our crunchy component, I'm using roasted almonds. Okay, so I just bought these dry roasted almonds from Trader Joe's. I like to get roasted almonds because I feel like they have more flavor. I gave them a rough chop and I'm gonna add those.
How many did you add?
That's probably about 2/3 a cup, 3/4 a cup. It says it on the recipe. I'm scaling up the recipe a little bit today just to have enough, but yeah. So that's our crunchy component. For our chewy and sweet component, I'm adding dried apricots. Whenever I look for dried fruit, so I love this salad with fresh apricots, but of course fresh apricots aren't in season right now. So I'm using dried apricots. I generally recommend using fresh versus dried, but if you do use dried, try to find one without added sugar. So these apricots just say apricots, right? They don't have added sugar to them. So that's always a good thing. I gave those also a rough chop, maybe in like 4 pieces each. And so there's just big chunks of apricot in here. Yummy. Okay, sweet and chewy, crunchy, and we also have creamy, which for that I'm adding avocado. Okay, I think an avocado can add a really good healthy source of fat to the salad. It's also a really good substitution for cheese. Okay, if you're trying to be a little less dairy and meat heavy, avocado can be a good option. So I'm adding that into it. There's avocado's a really, really good source of, what is it called? Phytosterols is what it's called. And those are really helpful if you have high cholesterol. If any of you have high cholesterol. So I just chunked up an avocado in there, just adding the chunks.
Is it also true avocados have that healthy fat, so they help your body to be able to use the nutrition in the food, whatever you're using?
Right, so that vitamin C and vitamin A and calcium we talked about in the arugula, because we're eating the arugula with avocado and almonds, both of which are sources of healthy fat, we're going to be more able to utilize the nutrients in the apricots and the arugula and the other healthy foods that we're eating. So I say, do not fear fat. Fat is very good for you. Just depends on the source of fat. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, I mean, I've been meaning to talk about this actually, but there's been a lot of changes to the nutrition label. And the changes haven't rolled out fully yet. There's expected to be rolled out by 2020, January 1st, 2020. Some labels already say it though. But anyways, there's a lot of changes. And one of the changes is that right now it says calories, 200, calories from fat, 80. And they're actually getting rid of that calories from fat saying, because one, it confuses people, and two, the calories from fat don't matter as much as the type of fat that you're getting. So that's kind of an outdated thing. The 90s were the fat phobic phase where everyone wanted to be really low fat, right? But that's not the case anymore. What we've been researching and discovering is that it depends your source of fat. Like for example, avocado and almonds aren't fattening, right? If you eat them in a healthy context. So we're also going to add some fresh chives in there. And of course we need a dressing for our salad. So in the same way that a salad should have all these certain components, I think a dressing should have a certain amount of components. And obviously if you've been coming to my class for a while, you've seen me make a lot of dressings. So I always say something acid, something fat, something sweet, and something flavor. Okay? So for our acid in this dressing, we're using lemon. You could also use vinegar. Lemon and vinegar are what I would say are the two most common sources of acid in a dressing. Okay, I'm adding the juice of a whole lemon.
That way you don't have to stir it, you can just put a lid on it. And
So you can shake the crap out of it. That's exactly right, Roxanne. Okay, juice of a whole lemon. I kind of like this little squeezer thing because then it prevents you getting the seeds in there. Let me get this out of the way. Okay, that's our acid. Our source of fat, guess what it is?
Olive oil?
Extra virgin olive oil. It's pretty much always the source of fat for my dressings. It's, in my opinion, probably the healthiest oil you could use. It is, of course, not great for high temperature cooking, but it's great for cold temps or no temps, like on a salad. So I'm going to add probably about 1/4 cup. About 1 second is a tablespoon. So like 1, 2, that would be like 2 tablespoons. So I probably put more than 1/4 cup in there. But anyways, usually our ratio should be about 2 to 1. So 2 parts fat to 1 part acid. 2 to 1. Some people say 3 to 1. But to cut down on a little bit of calories, I say 2 to 1. Our little bit of sweet component is just going to be a little bit of honey. Okay, to help balance that out. So about a teaspoon of honey. And our flavor component is going to be these fresh chives. So I like to add a spice, an herb, or an aromatic. And in this dressing, we're adding all 3, spice, herb, and aromatic. So our herb is chives. Our spice is cumin. Another way to add that great earthy flavor. I don't have very much left in here, so I'm just going to put it all in. Cumin. And our aromatic is the rest of our garlic over here. Okay. So, and then sometimes I even like to have, well, I missed the mark here. I even like to have, this one isn't a required component of a salad dressing, but spice is something that I think is really nice. So I like to add a couple of red pepper flakes. Just a tiny bit to flavor the olive oil. Teensiest bit. You can also add more to your salad after the fact if you do like that spice factor. Okay, like Roxanne said, you put the lid on it and you shake the heck out of it, right? So no, streaming in the olive oil while you're whisking this or that. I know a lot of salad recipes call for that. Okay. This helps it gets really emulsified and combined. You can keep this at room temperature or in your fridge for like up to a week. Keep in mind that if you do keep it in your fridge, it'll solidify because olive oil solidifies in cold temperatures. All you need to do is just set it out for a little bit to get it to come to more of this consistency. So now we have this good, yummy, herby salad dressing. I forgot to mention too that I usually put salt and fresh cracked pepper in my salad dressing as well, just to add that extra level of seasoning. Okay, fresh cracked pepper, pinch of salt.
How long it would take for, say, that amount to solidify after taking it out of the refrigerator?
I can't say for sure. Maybe 15 minutes. It shouldn't take too long. And shaking it helps.
Yeah.
And I mean, if it was in a jar like this, you could even zap it for a couple seconds in the microwave to help speed along the process. Minus the lid, exactly. Okay. So as always, you want to taste your dressing before you dress the salad just to test for balance. Tastes good to me. So we're gonna add that to our salad here. Now this would be a good meal prep salad to make. but you would want to keep all the components separate until you were ready to eat them. So now I'm just going to give the salad a toss. Got all of our balance of flavors going on here. Use these tongs. And if you find that your salad is maybe a little dry or something, an extra squeeze of lemon juice, an extra little drizzle of olive oil, that can really help. But this is actually looking really good. So to me, this salad has all the makings to be a complete meal, to be honest. But I think when paired with that soup over there, it makes a great option for a soup salad type of scenario. Just a little healthier wise. And this weather definitely calls for a hearty soup. Okay, I made some more room, so I'm actually just gonna add another little bit of arugula. And because I have it, and because I'm not seeing a ton of chunks of avocado, I'm gonna add my second avocado, and I'm gonna show you guys how I peeled and cubed that.
Yummy, yum.
I know, right? Doesn't it look good?
It looks really good.
Okay, so that's our salad there. I'm gonna add this second avocado because I don't have any portion control on avocado. Avocado is super good. I love avocado in my salad and everything. Okay, so here's your avocado. To get the pit out, you just take that knife, hit it, twist, and it comes right out. No digging with your fingers. Okay, and I use a big spoon to get out the pulp, or the flesh, not the pulp. I've got a crostini recipe up for you guys. I used a multi-grain baguette, drizzled it with some olive oil, toasted it. Looks like this. They're kind of crispy, crunchy on the outside here. I'm gonna add a little bit of goat cheese. Okay, so this is actually just some leftover goat cheese, but I'm just using plain goat cheese, crumbling it on. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of walnuts for some healthy fat. Okay. Give these a chop. Sprinkle those on. And then just gonna give it a little drizzle of honey. Where'd my honey go? Just a little drizzle of honey for sweetness. This is just a really good little appetizer or simple little side with your salad or with your soup. I already made a bunch of them because I knew I wouldn't have time to make like a whole bunch right after this, but that's it. You can also add like a little sprinkle of fresh herbs. Like for example, thyme goes really well with this. Mint, parsley even would go really well. But there you have it. Basically, you have a soup, salad, and breadstick. A la Olive Garden, but much healthier, much better for you.